introduce tonight's keynote speaker, Lieutenant General Frank Kearney. He's a 1976 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. He earned his master's in education from South Carolina. He has served in Ranger, Airborne, Infantry, and Special Operations units, as well as multiple command assignments from the company, the battalion, the brigade, and into the theater level for special operations. Lieutenant General Kearney has combat and operational experience in Grenada, in Panama, in the Balkans, in Iraq, and in Afghanistan. You'll be hard-pressed to find a more combat-tested leader in the United States Army today than Lieutenant General Kearney. Most recently, he was the Deputy Commander of SOCOM, Special Operations Command, headquartered out of MacDill Air Force Base down in Tampa, Florida. Currently, he is the Deputy Director for Strategic Operation Plans at the National Counterterrorism Center in Washington, D.C.
Well, what's your job? How do you contribute? What is your sacrifice? What is your calling in the United States to be able to say thanks to the veterans? As I said, it's a volunteer force. I think that things like what Mike is doing and the cause that you're meeting for tonight is where you can give back. And it's different for each individual. You know, our wounded veterans come home, and our families who lose their sons and daughters come home. And I don't know if I've been to a lot of military funerals, and I've sat in Arlington in one of the receiving rooms, and they normally have the family sit on a couch down there, and everybody's kind of in the room. And what always strikes me is there's nobody talking. And you know why that is? It's because people don't know what to say. And they're afraid to go and communicate with people who need somebody to wrap their arms around them more that day than any day in their life. And so the values that you saw up here of courage, we need to just squeeze a little of that out on days like that, and go up and hug them, because that's powerful, and then talk to them and tell them that you're going to be there for them. Most folks come by and say, hey, if you need something, call me, I'm here. That doesn't get it. The offer to call and the unanswered offer to help are not what communities should be given. Measure yourself by your actions. When did you call that family? When did you bring a meal over? When did you go over and see how they were doing? I happen to have a handicapped brother who has TBI. He happens to have it from an accident that he had when he was 18 years old. Okay, he's not a military kid, but you know, he's a little bit one-off. And so when people talk to them, and he's scarred up pretty much, and he talks with a slur, I mean, you can watch people acting away. We're uncomfortable with people who we don't understand the injuries they have, how they got them, and how you can do things. And our natural response is to back away. I'm asking you again to dig into the well of courage and be engaging. Sit and listen. Talk to their family. Figure out how you can communicate, embrace, and bring these people in and reintegrate them into the community that they came from. I had one of my classmates from West Point call me about a year ago. His son was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, getting ready to get out of the Army, and he had done a tour in Afghanistan, and he had had some discipline problems after coming out. He was experiencing and manifesting the symptoms of post-traumatic shock. And because the units come back and they would break apart, people didn't really know him. So he turned to alcohol, he turned to drugs. He came up positive on a urinalysis test. And he was getting ready to leave the Army. And his dad, who I hadn't talked to in 38 years, knew that I was a general and called me up and said, Frank, I gave the Army my son, and you're giving me back a broken man. And he's getting married next week, and right now he's locked down in his unit because they lost a pistol, and he can't get out to go to his wedding. How can you help me? And so here's a kid who came to the Army whole, had some challenges in the Army in his service, was manifesting those symptoms, His chain of command had changed. They recognized those as disciplinary problems, not the effects of post-traumatic stress. And as a result, he was categorized and branded. Don't we do that all the time with things we don't understand? Take him, we put him in the corner, and we go, well, how can I help? Maybe I can donate a little bit of money here. But what people need is interaction. Reintegration is a word that is talking about bringing people in, returning them to the community, making them whole again, not putting them in the corner, feeling good about making a donation to an organization and not participating in helping. Loved ones have a real challenge with all this stuff as well. As people who have symptoms of unseen injuries, whether it's TBI, whether it's PTSD, 24% of the people right now coming out of the war are diagnosed with some form of PTSD. The estimate is up to 66% have some form of that will manifest itself over time that is not diagnosed. And it comes out when it's not diagnosed later, or it comes out sometime over time, and you have people who haven't shared that common experience, and they don't understand what it is, why it happens. They only see the symptoms. And so they need people like the veterans, hospitals, the psychologists and psychiatrists who are learning so much more about this today to redouble their efforts to be able to help us see those things and then understand them for what they are. And that means we've got to have human contact. We've got to have interaction. We've got to have that most base human communication to learn about why people hurt, why they do what they do. We failed a generation in this. We have learned a great deal over the last 10 years, and the military and the military hospitals are taking this on in a great way, but it's a huge challenge. And it's challenging because it's unique to each individual, especially with polytrauma, where we have our amputees and our gunshot wounds all came from an IED of some sort, so they have concussive trauma. These things unfold over ways, and we treat them as individual silos rather than as an eclectic whole where we bring people together and do things. Again, that's just the challenge we have because, you know, in World War II and Korea and Vietnam, we didn't have the great protective equipment, and those people died. So the success of our technology should not result in broken victims that we don't know how to help. So we're moving on to kind of research and do those things. I'd ask all of you to read a book. It's called War. It's written by Sebastian Junger. He wrote The Perfect Storm. You've probably seen the movie. He is one of the most wonderful storytellers there is. And he has written a non-political story about a platoon in the Korengal Valley in Afghanistan. And it's about 25 or so sons of American parents who happen to be in this valley and how they deal with day-to-day combat. They drop more bombs in the Korengal Valley than in any other place in Afghanistan in the 15 months this platoon was there. They lost 7 people in the first 6 weeks of their combat, and they learned so fast they didn't lose another. Medal of Honor Sal Junta is from this company. My son happened to be the company commander, so I'm sort of intimately involved with that, and I've learned a lot about watching this platoon. So why do I ask you to read this book and then see the movie Restrepo, a documentary recently nominated for an Academy Award in a long documentary? It's because those are our kids, those are your brothers and sisters, those are your parents in some cases that are out there, and you need to watch and see what they go through so you can understand what your duty is in helping them reintegrate back into society. I hear a lot, and I've heard in some conversations here where you ask, well, what's it like to shoot somebody? What is it like to live in the mountains of Afghanistan? What is it like to be in an IED? What is it like on your 3rd combat tour when you have been up and down and up and down, and you now have to have the psychologist come out and prescribe medication for your company because you're on an isolated outpost, and these kids need something to help them sleep through the night? What is it when the the best soldier, Staff Sergeant Rubel, and your company is killed. You thought he was invincible, you thought he was made of iron, and you go, what about me? I'm not the man he was. What's that do to confidence? What's that do to your ability to be resilient and go out and do things next? It is a wonderful story, and you can learn a lot from it. And I don't tell you that because it happens to be my son's company. It's one of the best stories told about soldiers in combat that can answer the questions we have back home, to see what they do, how they live, how they cope with stress, and how they feel. It's not just action. They do interviews with each one of them as part of the documentary itself. And they talk about how they still can't sleep, how they don't want to forget the day that Sergeant Rubel dies because they don't want to lose that memory. They're holding him so close. Soldiers, sailors, and airmen enlist for patriotism, and they fight for each other. And when one of them is lost, or they lose a piece of themselves, or they lose one of their comrades or something like that, I mean, you look at them with blood-draped uniforms and carrying their friends out. Sal Junta crawling through multiple ambushes to pull back his friend who is being carried away by the enemy alone. You don't do this because you're looking for the Medal of Honor. You do this because you love the people you're with. And I would ask you to love them in your communities as much as they love each other, as much as their parents and families love them. Now, you are a friendly audience. I don't have to give you a lot of instructions because as you stood up, you're either a veteran, married one, the son or daughter of one, or a newborn. You came here because you understand this. We need your help to support foundations that reach out to people. If all you can do is go to a race and give money, that's better than doing nothing. But what we really need are the people who are willing to be part of that contact group, who touches someone, who talks to someone, who's there. That's a special person.